We recording then? Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Dunn County Executive Committee to order. Call of the roll. All supervisors are here except for Supervisor Steen, who is excused. I need a motion to approve the minutes. Supervisor Morehouse moves. Supervisor Headland seconds. Any speaking to the minutes? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes, minutes are approved. Public comments. I'm not aware of any. Do we have anyone from the public who wishes to speak? Doesn't look like it. Close public comments. County manager's report. Chris.
All right, you had in your packets the May County Board agenda and pretty straightforward. We will do, Beata and I will work together on a kind of reworked, updated presentation just to lay some groundwork around shared understanding of debt and borrowing, where we're at with that, since we'll have to have those conversations related to CIP. And then the county clerk, criminal justice collaboration, and the child support office have their reports. We have a redistricting map that doesn't change anything. There's no people that live in it, I believe. Yeah. Right? And a couple of budget adjustments, approval of the budget calendar, and resolution on a shared intergovernmental agreement for IT with the city of Menominee. So should be pretty straightforward.
And then I mentioned earlier,
yep.
Petitions memorials. We need to put that back on because we will have 7 supervisors who have are no longer with us, who will, some of them probably come and collect their certificates.
Yep.
So that was the only thing I had.
Okay. ERP update, that project continues. KT and Tiffany Taggart, her program assistant, just attended a government finance officers training on ERP implementation last week, and we the work groups are up and running and meeting regularly. I mean, so far we're still on task. Things always take longer than you think they are, but those two are very good task masters in terms of keeping things moving. So again, our hope is we would be able to have an RFP let by the end of the summer and selection, and hopefully could do the licensing purchase before the end of the year, since we will have some ARPA money to do that. But we'll see how far we get with that project. Any questions about that? I just want you to keep aware that we're investing a fair amount of staff time and energy into that project. And then I shared with you our list of how Dan and I have decided to split up some of the committee meetings. Obviously, we're both at committee administration and executive committee generally. Dan is going to do community resources and tourism, facilities, highway, and PR&D. And I have health and human services, judiciary and law, NDC. And then we each have, Dan has broadband and I have housing. And you will, intermittently see either of us instead of the other. But I told Dan last week one day, PR&D, I said, this is the very first time that I've actually sat here and thought, oh, I have an extra, 2 hours out of my life to get something done. Right, exactly. Or 4 hours out of my life. Exactly. Well, this morning with highway too. So yeah, it's very nice to be able to share a little bit of that. Any questions about that?
Look like it.
All right. And then I would just add, we're already kind of full bore into budget discussion, talking, framing, working on, Beata's been updating the, our, employee lists and compensation and, our small kind of internal group of HR and, Andrew and Dan and I and Jenna and Beata met yesterday, just talk about, what are the hurdles and the obstacles and what are the good things that we've got going. So we will hit the ground running here shortly. You'll see approval of the budget calendar, like I said, at the May County Board meeting, and those instructions will go out to the department heads at the later on in the month of May and due back on July 7th. And it'll be the middle of the year. Crazy. I know. Yeah. So that's all I got.
See any questions? Item 6, reports, resolutions, and ordinances to the county board from the executive committee, starting with A, 2024 budget adjustment for facilities. I'll need a motion in a second. Supervisor Vogel and Supervisor Morehouse, speaking to the facility. It's a budget adjustment. We all know that how these work. Anyone have any specific questions? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. B, budget adjustment highway. Need a motion in a second. Supervisor Prochnow, Supervisor Bauer. Again, it's a budget adjustment.
May I ask a stupid question, Mr. Chairman?
I don't know. It might be a smart question.
Well, I just am curious about what is a local force account? I don't recall having seen that before.
Oh. DOT lingo. So DOT jargon, Department of Transportation jargon. I presume it's how the Department of Transportation denotes, like, the county would be the local force for the county. You're welcome. I was in the back of my head somewhere. I hope. Or at least plausible. Okay, so anything else on that? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. 6C, resolution amending county supervisory district maps. A motion in a second. Supervisor Kinnear and Supervisor Calabrese. Andrew, this is another one of those. Oh, Andrew's not here anymore. This is, there you are. This is another one of the, we need to move the lines. No voters are actually involved.
Correct. This is a agreement between the city of Menominee and the township of Red Cedar to basically like take over ownership of a road. And as no voters live on a road, it won't affect any of the population density, but it is just kind of adjusting the supervisory district lines to incorporate the road into the town of, or the city of Menominee from the town of Red Cedar.
All right. Anyone have any questions on that? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. 6D, approval of the 2025 budget calendar. Motion in a second. Supervisor Morehouse, Supervisor Headland. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's a calendar. Does anyone have any questions specific to the calendar? All right.
The only question that I would have for the group would be, last year we did the budget workshop in August at the time of what would have been the August county board meeting, I believe. What did I put it on the
Yeah, I think
calendar
so.
for? And so, is that people's druthers again, or would you rather give up a Saturday?
I certainly would not rather give up a Saturday, but anybody really excited about giving up a Saturday? Okay, let's go with that. All right. Oh, Nick, do you?
Yeah, the end of the month.
Oh, I was just checking whether you needed to. No. Okay.
And Nick just pointed out it's the end of the month of August, because in August, it's the fourth Wednesday, because we will have, departments take their budgets to their standing committees in August, and then that will commence with that final workshop.
Great. Supervisor Vogel?
Well, that may be tight for facilities, because I think we have our meeting that same day. So
Yeah,
So
we'll,
to adjust, well, maybe a week ahead. Good to know, I need to look at that.
We
All
met
right.
too.
All right, thanks.
Okay. All right. So. Let. Any more discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Calendar passes. Item 7, review of reports, resolutions, and ordinances coming to the county board from the standing committees. Resolution approving intergovernmental IT agreement. And this is, we don't need to vote on this? We're just looking at it? Or do we? Oh, Mike, yeah.
It's an agreement between our county staff and the staff of the city of Menominee for us to help them with some of the IT work that they're not able to, I'm gonna say, keep up with. Any specifics, Dan would, if you'd like, Dan would glad to fill you in on.
Anyone have any questions? All right, I'm gonna take that as a no. Dan, you're off the hook. Item 8, reports from standing committees. Okay, so I'm gonna bring a thing up. We have been compiling information from supervisors, chairs, and staff for new committee members, and well, for old committee members too, about all the things that a committee member needs to know. So we're gonna try and get that compiled and out to you so that as the sort of the process of orientation for new members, we can also do orientation for committees. Just so put that in your heads. We're gonna try and get that data compiled in a reasonable manner here and get it out to everybody, and then just somewhere in your next 2, 3, 4 meetings, just plan on putting in a few minutes to go over that with new people. And with that, I will then move on to the reports from standing committees. Let's start on this side this time. Supervisor Calabrese.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Oh, Mr. Chair for this one.
Mr. Chair, oh, that's right.
We're in the other meeting now.
I don't know why I felt so comfortable saying that. It makes no sense.
Doesn't disturb me, but I figured I should correct it for the record.
Thank you, thank you. Probably because I got a good reaction last time, so I go with what works. The Judiciary and Law Committee met here on April 22nd, and it was a relatively brief meeting. We had planned on asking the departments to elaborate more on their duties and what it is that they do for the benefit of the new supervisor, but he was at his away at his son's wedding, so we're holding that off until next month. And Katie talked about what I talked about earlier at the legislative committee, the fees for translating services, and received some questions on that. Melissa in emergency management talked about how some employees have maxed out on their vacation time, meaning they haven't taken any of it, but they can't get any more of it. And because the department is short-staffed, and shows she's working with HR to maybe implement a vacation buyout policy.
Like we did for emergency management. This would be a different set, I presume, so.
Yeah, different set of employees.
Yep.
I think, yeah. And that was pretty much it. There really wasn't much else happening at the committee that day. And the next meeting is here on May 20th.
Thank you, Supervisor Calabrese. Supervisor Kinnear.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The neighbors of Dunn County met the fourth Thursday of the month, last month. And we have 3 new supervisors on that committee. Or is it 4? Anyway, we had some orientation.
Depends on how you count.
Yeah, it depends on how I count it. We had the orientation for them, only a small little part But it's still rather overwhelming because there's so many regulations and rules and financing going on. But a lot of questions and they did well. We've got the CNA courses going and we're starting another one just recently now, again, which is wonderful to hear. COVID, we had some residents and one staff, 3 residents and 1 staff that had it, but I don't think there was anything serious. And COVID booster was offered to everybody eligible for it and not required, but anybody that wants it. Was that today? Yeah, that was today. And this was kind of exciting to us. 7 new staff members were being onboarded and oriented. Instead of 1 or 2 at a time, 7.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, that's great. And we lost our director of nursing a little bit ago, and the interviews occurred today. And we'll see what happens from that. And we'll meet again the 4th Thursday of this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Kinnear. Supervisor Brockno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Highway and transit met this morning. No real update on transit except ridership still really well. Highway, we're graveling shoulders right now, adding gravel to shoulders. We're working on the bike trail, obviously. If you went by the hill here, it's getting done. It should be done here a couple weeks. So that's looking really well. We started spray patching out on the roads for the potholes and everything else. We're starting the crack filling. We're starting spraying operations for invasive weeds. What else? We got County Road K project. There's no update on that one. County Road B, they obviously, if you've been out there, is a mess and a zoo. North part's work going really well. Second south part is supposed to start probably next week sometime. Not that it's a county thing, but Highway 64 has got a lot of road construction on it going up there this starting the 13th, just so you're aware. There's some detours up there. Not a county project though. Then Muddy Creek is starting to work on that down there on County Road C. The new Colfax salt shed is going to be starting to design, and it's going to be built here, started here fairly soon. That's about it. Our next meeting's June 12th.
Thank you, Supervisor Brockno. Supervisor Quill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Planning, Resource and Development Committee met on August 1st. We discussed 2 items. The first was a review of the status and the background of the Dunn County Islands and the potential for sale. It was for discussion only. And then we also continued our table discussion on the ordinance revision to include accessory dwelling units in our zoning ordinance. The first discussion on county islands, Chase Cummings, with a little help from Dan Prestabach, the previous county conservationist, gave us a really good history of how we got the islands, of the background of the natural disasters, I guess, and the moving of the village off the island, and sort of how it came to be in the county possession, and talked about some of the natural features, some of the character of the more important natural features. Some areas on the islands are natural areas recognized by the Department of Natural Resources, including, which I didn't know, including the largest existing oak savanna, natural oak savanna in the state that's in a protected area. So we talked, the presentation went into that. We also went into the county management, not a complete timeline or accounting, but sort of a general analysis of the timber sales we've had over the years, the income that's come in versus the expenses, the anticipated timber sale in the future, probably a year or 2 off, And we didn't do Chase didn't do a calculation of what the benefit, what the positive and negative was. It was clear that the county has made money, significant amounts of money off the harvest, and the next harvest would probably be also be profitable. And he also provided an assessment of the amount of time that the county is putting into, our staff is putting into management. And he estimated that that's primarily him, and it's primarily during the timber sale periods. And so during the 2 years he's been here, he estimated he put about 25 hours of his time into dealing with the island. Then we asked Supervisor Bauer to join us, and we had a sort of just a really sort of initial review of, well, why would we be considering the sale of this island right now? And Bob gave a good account of, well, this is just an opportunity to potentially generate some revenue. That it was an idea that had been offered up, that there are people in the community that may be interested in buying it, or outsiders that may be interested in buying it, and that it would be a way to get revenue from the sale and potentially some revenue from property taxes. We did talk a little bit about the limitations on property tax assessments, given the fact that the property whoever buys it, probably be buying it for recreational purposes, and that in many cases, much of that land is kept in managed forest, which limits the tax rate to at the most $10 an acre. So but those are considerations that if we were to decide to sell it, we would need to look at the revenues, and then we would need to look at, okay, what really are the potential property tax benefits of having it back on the tax roll. Committee, our understanding was we have not been asked by the board to make a recommendation on whether to sell this property or not. So this was done in the form of an assessment to give us an idea of what was happening there. And I think the general feeling of the committee was that, given what we know now, we would not on our own recommend to the board that the property be sold. That it has significant natural value. The question about what the sale value would be and what the tax value would need to be investigated carefully before we made that decision. But that unless we're asked, we are not on our own going to make a recommendation to sell the property at this time. Is that inaccurate?
Mhm.
Okay. The next item was a discussion of where we're at with the accessory dwelling units. So we had a public hearing a month ago, or 2 weeks, I don't know, I can't remember when, month ago. And after that public hearing, we suspended, we closed the hearing. No, we had left the hearing open, closed the hearing at the last meeting, and had discussion, and ended up, the discussion was mostly about how to proceed with the decision. And what we're faced with is a somewhat complicated ordinance that has support from much of the testimony we received, and we received a lot, is support of it, but a strong opposition in the testimony we received from 2 of the towns in the county near Menominee that have nearly all of the R1 single-family residential zoning in the county. And the concern they've raised in letters and in testimony at the hearings is that we do not want this in our residential areas. So with that, the committee on the first agreed that we would move forward. We would remove R1 from the proposed ordinance, but move forward with consideration of the ordinance in R2 and R3, which are multifamily, and in general agriculture. And we have had several towns specifically say they support general ag, some who've had kind of questions about it. And I expect that we will get more testimony about that or more comments about that at our next meeting. But we've asked staff to come back with a version of the ordinance that removes R1 from the ordinance and limits it to basically general ag, R3, R2, and R3. And that's the version that we will consider next week after we've beaten this to death. But anyway, that's where we're at. And so the meeting will be next Wednesday, August 15th. We will hopefully take action one way or the other, or defer action one way or the other. But anyway, that's our next step. So that's all we talked about.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Quinn. Supervisor Bauer.
Hey, can I ask?
Oh, sure, Supervisor Headland,
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Part of the forum I attended yesterday, put on by the Extension Service, this came up as a big topic. And one of the pushes for it was the, I'm gonna say, they used an example of, you know, maybe parents or somebody like that owning a larger lot or a larger, you know, chunk and a big home and wanting to downsize. And so it would be, you know, certainly advantageous for them to build on their own property and then, you know, sell off or have that other property on the market available for additional housing. That was, I guess the push was that kind of an example. But so I guess my question is that really, you know, R2 is really commercial? That's like, no.
No,
Okay,
multifamily. So duplexes.
okay,
R3 would be multifamily apartment buildings I mean, single family dwellings are allowed also, but in addition to that, you could have a duplex in R2 or a multifamily dwelling in R3. R1 is single family homes only. So we would be removing this provision from single family zoning areas and limiting it to our multifamily and general ag. So most of the towns are mostly general ag. That's the largest designation.
Okay. Thank you.
But for the reasons you mentioned, those are the reasons why we think this is important.
Thank you, Supervisor Quinn. Supervisor Bauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Community Resources and Tourism has not met yet. We meet next Tuesday at 4:30 right here in this room. So I really don't have nothing to report. I did get some stuff from Dan for broadband. I did watch some videos on different things, so I'm trying to get caught up on everything. I know we're gonna have some new members on the board or on the committee as well, so I'll have to wait and see what happens on our meeting. I don't know if Ann was the vice chair, if she's got something to add, but they gave the report last executive meeting, so I don't have nothing.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Bauer. Supervisor Headland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee on Administration met Thursday, the 25th of April here in this room. We welcomed new members, and I think we're going to have a good and strong and productive committee. Everyone showed a lot of interest in you know, getting caught up and seeing what was going on in the committee. So very positive. Thank you. Along with that, we did, of course, approve the vouchers paid up to, 4/16. And then, approved out of class pay for Angela Wagner, who is our fill-in, treasurer at this point and doing a good job for us. And we wanted to make sure that she received the pay that, the treasurer would have received. She's gonna be, and we're gonna extend that, so that she can receive that probably for a month afterwards, so that she can, because obviously she's gonna be there, getting everybody up to speed. So again, thank you to Angela for taking that on, and it's been, my knowledge, pretty smooth. So hopefully it continues to be. And then, of course, the resolution approving that intergovernmental IT agreement, Dan presented that to us, and did a very good description of that agreement. It really protects us, so to speak. They're going to help Menominee with some work, City of Menominee, but at the same time, the agreement says that, Dunn County is priority for staff time. So, something pops up, they'll take care of our issues or our problems or our work, before they would get involved. They're not going to push anything aside, just feel that they've got the time to do it. And so the initial agreement that you'll be voting on at the county board is for $20,000. However, it's a very flexible agreement. If either party can back out, we can renegotiate if we find that there's a need for more time than we anticipate. So I don't see any harm, and I just see a positive thing going forward. Next meeting will be Thursday, May 23rd with the rest of the group here. I think there's 3-4 of us who will all be active again on May 23rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Headland. Supervisor Morehouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Health and Human Services Board last met on April 11th. We had moved up our agenda to accommodate staff participation in conferences and so on. So it had, having been only a couple of weeks since our previous meeting, we had excellent reports, but sort of truncated, and we didn't look in depth at finances. Veteran Services did update us on the Veterans Resource Fair that, of course, happened on the day of our CIP workshop. But just in case you didn't know, the Wisconsin Secretary of Veterans Affairs has visited at least once and was a speaker and resource person at that Veterans Resource event. Public Health is working on hiring a public health educator to replace Caitlin Engel, who was stolen by the city. Rustled, I believe that's how it was put. On DHS, we learned that our Family and Children's Services, Lori Radcliffe, her team received the 2024 Department of Human Services Secretary's Family First Award for their excellent service in family treatment court. Really a nice, really nice recognition for that team that is just fabulous. We reviewed the vouchers. We approved 2 resolutions from Public Health. One, while this doesn't happen apparently very often, but we approved a fee to be charged to private well drillers who fail to request a permit before they drill a well. And we approved a late fee. Again, doesn't happen very often for the transient non-community systems, campgrounds, hotels, et cetera, who fail to pay their fees for the system inspections. And we meet on the same Thursday, last Thursday in May as our next meeting. That's my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Morehouse. Supervisor Vogel.
The Facilities Committee met on April 24th at 6 p.m. in this room. So we have one new committee member, and Scott gave us a great refresher for all of us about all the buildings they maintain and who is maintaining the buildings, and all the county parks throughout the county and what they do at each of the parks. And they did put in the docks already, and they said the neighbors were very happy to have the docks in early, and also that they keep them in as long as they can. And then we discussed that Cedar Corp is going to give us a quote for a phase 2 inspection of the transfer station. So we have to decide whether we want to do it or not, depending on the cost. And if we just sell it outright with as is, potentially. And then Supervisor Bjork gave us the Fair Board report. And they're going to have, they're going to allow exhibitors to show animals in multiple counties now. So you can show in Dunn or Pepin or Chippewa, and you can move between them to hopefully pull in more exhibitors at the fairs. And then operations are moving along very well. They've been doing projects for office moves and painting. And our next meeting is May 22nd.
Thank you, Supervisor Vogel. I have nothing else on my list except our next meeting date, which will be Thursday, June 13th at 3:30 PM. Unless we have a legislative, we'll let people know if we happen to have that. And with that, we are adjourned.